Hello folks, we're almost ready to go. We're just going to do a bit of a warm-up and see if we can pull a few people that are just wandering past poor innocents and get them to sit down. So we're going to roll up for, it's one of those things you do at the show, isn't it? What are some of the other things that the carnies say? Every player wins a prize. And I walk past.
And the food, with the food, you know, there's that loop that goes on a lot of
and it's still there.
So,
and I was amazed.
Roll up, get your Dagwood dogs, your hot donuts.
Yes, and there's making, baking, cooking all the time. It's still going. I reckon it started when I was a kid. We're going to sit down and start the show any second now, folks. Thanks very much for joining us. Join in, give us a yell, give us a cheer as we go. It's being recorded today, and that's nice because it'll go into the show museum to be a more lasting legacy of what we're going to tell you about today. So here we go.
So our show today is all about the last 100 years here at Wavell, because there's a whole other story that we'll get into in a minute. But let me properly introduce to you my companion here, Kieth Conlon. Kieth is one of the best known media personalities in South Australia. His career spans decades, and he's worked in radio and television extensively over the years.
I started just before it was invented.
And these days, look him up on social media. Kieth is absolutely prolific on social media, and he's now Mr. South Australia for more than a few reasons, but one of those reasons is there's not much about South Australia that this bloke doesn't actually know. So check him out on social media. If you've got any interest in the history and the development of South Australia, he posts about it every day. So welcome, Kieth Conlon.
Thank you, folks. And welcome to my mate, Captain Rural, also known as Leigh Radford, who has worked in rural media, particularly for the ABC, for a very long time. And so what he doesn't know about the regional side of South Australia isn't worth knowing. So please welcome Leigh Radford.
Thank you.
So we're here, indeed, to celebrate 100 years of the Royal Adelaide show at the Wavell Showground. And the birthday is tomorrow, would you believe? September 8, 1925. It all began here. So we're part of a very long tradition.
But it goes back almost 100 years before that, Kieth, doesn't it?
It does.
The show here in Adelaide, and it wasn't here, it was actually back in the city.
Yep, if we go to our next picture, because we've got a lot of pictures to show today, we're in Botanic Park. It was, even before it was called Botanic Park, it was called the Police Paddock, because the stables for the mounted police were up on North Terrace. So out in Botanic Park, the show arrives there by 1843, but we've got to go back a bit further than that, don't we? 1840, yep. The very first show, the Agricultural Society is already formed, and we're talking about just over 3 years after Colonel William Light is running around banging pegs in to choose the side of Adelaide on Goodgarna country, which they call Tandanya, the land of the red kangaroo. So 1840, where's the show?
It was on North Terrace, and in fact it was down in what they call the police.
I want to go back a bit.
The hotel, yes. It was. Sorry, it was in a hotel. It was in what is now Metropolitan Adelaide.
Yep, it was in the backyard of the pub. In Grenfell Street, the very first show. Then they get to this, of course, as you say, in the parklands. And this is a lovely significance about this one. It's got a link with the showgrounds today, because some of you would have come in through the entrance off Goodwood Road. That is the Ridley entrance. So
now, what was Ridley famous for, Keith?
I want to talk about his stripper. Not the one you're thinking of. I want to talk about a revolutionary agricultural implement that could, with one horse dragging this new machine across a paddock, could just reap the wheat in no time. And we wanted to grow a lot of wheat over bigger and bigger spaces, and we didn't have the workforce to do it by hand with a scythe. And so he revolutionises agriculture. In 1843, they give him a special prize at this show. 100 years later, they open the Ridley Gates.
So the show really was all about trying to bring country to city and to tell city people about how farming is done out in the countryside. But more importantly than that, it was also about trying to actually help the development and accelerate the development of agriculture in South Australia, because back in the early days of the colony, that was the one thing that we could do here that would produce export income, so money for the state.
Vital, absolutely vital. So did it work? Let's have a look at a picture just 2 years later, 1845. Wow, they needed a bigger tent. It's a beautiful picture, isn't it? And that's a signal that the show is really underway. By now, it's the Royal Agricultural and Horticultural Society show, as indeed it is today. And so the movement begins way back there.
And it gets better. It really develops quite rapidly, doesn't it, Keith?
You can see it.
Before you know it, they've got a building.
They've got an exhibition building of their own. Now, where's this? Well, it's about the same area, probably about where Botanic High School is today, between Botanic Garden and Frome Road. And that was set up in 1860. They've got their own big building site. And in this era, which lasts about 3 decades, is a very important moment. The first royal visit to Adelaide. We are absolutely rapt to have Prince Alfred, the Duke of Edinburgh, in town. They invite him to the show. He says, yes, of course, I'll be the patron. They tell him all about how we're winning prizes for our wheat in Paris and London. He says, jolly good show. They thought we could write to him and see if he would mind if we called ourselves the Royal Show. And he said, spiffing idea. And so we've been
and
the
has been ever since.
Exactly. So we've been the Royal Adelaide Show since the late 1860s.
But if you think this is impressive, how about this?
Oh, what a beauty. Does anybody remember where this was? Anybody know where it was? No, it was a magnificent building, wasn't it?
This is the Grand Exhibition Building.
Grand Dome. It was on North Terrace. If you were going down Pulteney Street towards the Benithan Hall and the Uni, it was just to the right as you turned onto North Terrace. Massive building. What would they do that for? Well, originally it was for the Jubilee exhibition, thus the exhibition building. Why the Jubilee? Queen Victoria had been on the throne for 50 years. She actually got to the throne just after our first British settlers got here in this very different reformist province. And it was also there for 50 years since European version of South Australia began.
But can you imagine what it would have been like, Keith? I mean, building something like that on that scale at that point in time here in South Australia, that was a big deal.
That'd be a big deal today, wouldn't it?
Well, it would be. What happened to it?
Well, sadly, of course, we'll tell you about lovely use of it, but eventually it was demolished in 1962 because the university wanted to build an underground car park and a new building further back. It's gone. But
it's a travesty.
Many wonderful things happened in the exhibition building, including the Royal Show arriving. I had a bit of a look at when it happened exactly, Leigh, and they waited until the Jubilee Oval was built down the back. 1895.
And that's what we're looking at the moment.
Isn't that a wonderful sight? You can see the exhibition building up on the hill. That's North Terrace.
So this is down near the Torrens, looking back up towards the city.
Yeah, where the uni is now. We'll come to that. Lovely promenade, and it also means that we can do more down there. It means that we can bring together the livestock show with the rest. It used to be, until then, down at the other end of North Terrace, opposite the Newmarket Hotel in the cattle yards. So they come together. And there they are. Wow.
And look at the horses. We've got the horses, we've got the cattle, and really this is kind of the genesis of what is the Grand Parade these days. We're looking at the best of livestock in South Australia in this case.
And we'll get to...
We'll have a look at that here at Wayville shortly.
Because of course it's still a centrepiece at Wayville. But a magnificent scene, and you'd wonder why, wouldn't you? Why would you leave such a beautiful spot right in the middle of the city? Well, the fact is, they got the shove.
Yes. 2 years into a 50-year lease on this site, and the state government at the time decided, actually, the university needs to grow. There's the zoo, there's the Botanic Gardens. We need to find another location for the Royal Show. And that's how it came about, Keith. And what was this back in the day?
Well, that's the amazing thing is you can see the government effectively saying to the Show Society, saying, look, the bad news is you've got to go. The good news is we've bought you a farm. You think, a farm? Where
in the
is it?
boondocks.
Where is it? Oh no, it's a farm on Goody Road. It's just over the park lands. it's hard to imagine, isn't it, that early in the 20th century, there was still a farm here. Goodwood was well established, the train was going down the bay along the Glenelg tram track, but that's what they did, bought the farm.
And then they started planning what they were going to do with the farm. And this was one of the early forms of the plan for the site here.
It's just a national competition
Yeah.
for a design. And there's an important, you've picked up a couple of things about this.
Well, you see, I love my maps, Keith. So the first thing I noticed about this map, and I don't know whether you've noticed it, but the oval, it's got the wrong orientation.
It's going the wrong way.
Yeah. So a
So
little
it was
bit later on.
just before you moved that, though, I want to point out that red line whizzing through there. That's not somebody's pen through there by mistake. That is a creek. That is actually the Keswick Creek. So you've got to bury that, and it's still running today. Would have got a bit of water through last night. So we've got to fix that, and we've got to. But even then, early on, now we can really see a lot of the buildings are pretty well where they should be.
And this is pretty much the plan, certainly for the southern end of the showgrounds to this day. Some of those big brick buildings that are still there, the dairy pavilion, the cattle,
there it is.
The
Sheep
pavilion.
Up the railway line.
Exactly. So this goes back to the early planning, and this was prior to coming here in 1925, Keith, but it was stalled as well because a little conflagration got in the way.
Wow.
World War I happened, and that really slowed everything down and meant that the plans here for building were really slowed. Materials were short, labour was short.
We
and
got
it
a
was
bit
difficult.
of building done, didn't we? We could see some of the action as we moved through the pictures today. And by the way, when he said he loves his map, I should have mentioned Leigh's the president of the Royal Geographical Society of South Australia, which has a fabulous library of maps and books about our early days. Oh, I love this.
This is the main arena, preparing the main arena effectively prior to the first show here in 1925. I mean, we look out at that main arena today, Keith, and it's always a magnificent sight, particularly early in the show before it gets all of the traffic on it, but it is a magnificent arena. But this is how it was looking in the lead up to the first show here in 1925.
There's a nice story attached to the preparation of it and getting it nice and flat. There's a famous pilot in South Australian history called Captain Harry Butler. If you're from the York Peninsula, you'll know he's the one who he actually sent the first airmail, or took the first airmail across the Gulf to his hometown of Minlaton. That's what he was doing in 1920 on a flight. He'd headed off from Northfield somewhere, has a bit of engine troubles. He's looking for somewhere to land. Guess
Where does he land?
Right there. And that creates an enormous amount of noise and people coming in. They reckon thousands of people came to see what is the Red Devil, his plane, doing in the middle of the farm.
And it was actually the best publicity possible for the brand new showgrounds because it actually demonstrated where it was and took a whole lot of people there to see Harry.
Yeah, so 5 years later, we start the show. Meanwhile, we've got to build a few things.
Yeah, so this is looking towards the northern end of the main arena now, and what you can see is the Secretary's office there, which is still there today. A few bits and pieces have been added onto it. But look in the background there. You can see Poultry Pavilion on the roof of that shed. That went on, Keith, to be the Motor Pavilion, didn't it? And then show bags after that?
Yeah, Motor Pavilion, because that's pretty much just past the house, which has become the two-storey Secretary's office. That's the Kingsway, and so poultry over here, eventually the cars, you're right.
Yes.
And now show bags, heaven.
And this was a magnificent addition to the showgrounds at the time, Keith. The Show Society got a grant from the South Australian government at the time. I don't think it actually covered the building of the grandstand, but this grandstand was a big deal in its day, and it's still there in that form now.
This is a 1925 photo, so we're going back exactly 100 years. As Leigh says, the stand is ready for people to see what's going on in the main arena. Holds thousands of people. The next stand isn't even there yet. That was built a couple of years later. So instead, we've got ice cold drinks down the front, and we've got the Walkerville Brewery offering you a nice cold beer and a good view of the action on the arena. And at the back there's a nice, I hope you might get to this, you'll see that there's the Elder Smith Pavilion, the big pastoral firm. It became Elders. It built a lovely Art Deco pavilion to welcome its people in. That's now the Show Museum, and it's open all the way during the show. And if you'd like to see it at other times, they'll organise a visit for you for a group, for instance.
Now, we're going to have to get a wriggle on because we've got so many photos to share with people this afternoon, Keith. But
oh, here we are, the King's Way, we just mentioned, running right along there. That's it. And there's the Ridley Gates. Lovely.
Looking out towards the east.
And a lovely mention of some of the names that are ingrained in South
You've got
Australia.
Alaska ice cream up there. Does anyone remember Alaska ice cream? That's way back. And also Kelvinator, electric refrigeration. Fancy that.
And so, and the Kingsway, by the way, when they were building it in the 1920s, the society was going to call it the Broadway. And one of the members said it sounded a bit too American to him, so it's been the Kingsway ever since.
And I love what people are wearing. Have a look at all of these photos that we're going to show you in the first half of the show today and see what people are actually wearing at the time. It was a very formal affair to come here to the Royal Show at Wayville.
As we'll see, it lasts for a long time. We're in the old time.
Yeah, too right. Now, this was a significant development too, because let's remember, this is about bringing country to city. It's about showcasing the very best of agriculture in South Australia. And this was the Department of Agriculture building their first building here on the site for that very reason. So you can see the government of the day took all of this very seriously, as of course did the Royal Agricultural and Horticultural Society. And this was a bit of a grand building in its day too.
Yeah, I can remember, some of you will remember going in as a kid. To me, it was really impressive in terms of teaching us about grains, about the soil, about soil science, and that's something that the society...
It remains a theme to this very day, and in fact I think you'd all agree that for the kids here at Wayville, the educational opportunities and the things they get to see and touch and feel, absolutely fantastic. I love this shot, Keith, though. Look at this.
What gets you about this?
Well, this is I think it's the International Harvester site, isn't it?
Indeed,
And you've got the early agricultural machinery there. But I love that background too of the windmills, and of course these gates.
Yeah.
Effectively.
Yep. So, but basically, a heavy agricultural machinery was a big part of the show until in recent years. I guess the big field days on the York Peninsula and elsewhere have sort of taken over that end, and they've got bigger and bigger. So there's a bit more of the sideshows has moved into that
So
area.
let's get into the show proper now. This was out of the first catalogue here for the Royal Show. Just gives you a little bit of a flavour of what the show was all about in 1925.
Tells you that idea too, doesn't it? That there are a lot of societies, a lot of organisations actually help make the show happen.
Let's jump forward now to the 1960s, and love this shot too. The clothes have changed a little bit, but it's still fairly formal back in the 60s, Keith,
I reckon
isn't
the
it?
Joker with the hat and he's not wearing a tie was a little bit
Oh, that would have
casual.
been outrageous. Yeah.
A bit casual. But the Hall of Industries, we'll get to that again shortly, because that's show bag territory when I was a kid. That was where, I guess, the other side of the show, the city side of the show showed off, just as they do back through the Jubilee Pavilion today. You can buy a bike or a bed, or you can even a boat. In there, though, it tended to be a bit more food orientated, so it's processing the primary industry product and so on. And we'll tell you later where it was the beginning of something big at the show.
Now, this is what I love about coming to the show. It's really, for me, it is about the agriculture. I mean, it's not that I don't get a lot out of other things as well, but this is one of those spots here on the showground, and this is what it looked like back in the 60s, in actual fact. And have a look at some of those names, Keith.
Well, I love the name up the top there. See, J.T. Mortlock, John Tennant Mortlock of Martindale. And that's the fella who gave, in today's money, millions of dollars in his will to the State Library of South Australia. So significant that now that beautiful old wing, just named recently as the second most beautiful library in the world, now we call it the Mortlock Library. And of course it came from his work and his wealth at Martindale Hall in the mid-north. And it's a reminder, isn't it, that there's that wealth, the toil of all the farm workers and the country folk actually creating cultural opportunities right here on North Terrace.
And that wealth creation from primary industries, agriculture in South Australia, is still very much a large part of our earnings to this state, to this very day, which is why the show still remains really current and important in South Australia for all the showcasing of agriculture that it does.
This is where Leigh gets a bit excited too. He loves the sheep.
Here we go, and this is the Grand Parade. You've got to love a Grand Parade, don't you?
Yes, you do. Now, there's an important point about the Grand Parade I hadn't picked up in all my years of watching it. I couldn't actually bring my pet cow down here and just get on into the queue.
When have you had a pet cow?
I wish I did when I was a kid in Blackwood, but no. But what do you got to do to get out here?
You've got to be the best of the best. I mean, the show is about showcasing the best of the best in agriculture in South Australia. And that's what you get to see when you go and look at a Grand Parade. And it is a spectacular sight.
Yep, and in fact, we'll be able to show you some more of it because there's a nice view looking to the south towards Goodwood.
And Guri Tea on the, what is now I think, is that the Dairy Pavilion?
That's the Dairy Pavilion, and that reminds us what a great idea it was to build a model dairy. Of course, there's a lot of cows at the show, you've got to milk them anyway. Why not turn it into a demonstration dairy where we can actually tell the kids that's where the milk comes from.
And this is a bit of video of the Grand Parade from back in the... Is this... what era was this again?
I reckon this is 60s, early 60s.
This is early 60s, isn't it?
You can tell us the breeds one by one as they go past. Oh,
that's a horse.
Oh,
that's a foal. That's a horse.
That's a real... There's a nice side to this too, isn't it? Because you see young and old as the people leading the livestock. The story of how kids get involved is important too.
Absolutely it is. Now, it's also about show business here at the show, isn't it? I mean, it's not just about agriculture. Some of the things that draw us in are things like this, Keith, the Rocket Man.
He is our mascot for all the things that happen in the main arena on the entertainment side.
Who saw the Rocket Man? Yeah,
yes,
no, we've got a healthy show of hands out there. It was really something at the time.
It was huge. I mean, you can shoot people out of a cannon. They've been doing that forever. But Rocket Man was really ahead of its time.
And this is what it looked like. Have a look at this. This is video of Rocket Man taking off and doing about half a lap here at the show.
As you will see, away he goes. They're going to roll the tape at any second now. Oh, here we go. Oh,
he's off.
This is what we all dreamed of. We could go to work or go to school with a rocket on our back. This bloke, as you can see exactly where he's going. He's going to sweep around towards the main stand, and there he is. Yep. Oh, he's down. Now, there's an important question that's arisen when we were researching it. Why did it only last about 30 seconds?
Because that was as much fuel as he could carry on his back.
And that's why we're not. That's why we're not going to work or school with a rocket on our backs.
No. Now this is a blast from the past, isn't it?
We're going from flying people in rockets to flying wheat bags.
Check this out. This is no mean feat. Being able to fork a sheath up and over that bar that high up, and sheaths weren't lightweight either, were they, Keith?
No, we actually need a dictionary for the kids, don't we? A sheaf of wheat, all the stalks and the wheat on the end of it. That weighs a lot. And but this would have originally come out of actual people trying to hoik them up onto the top of a haystack or on the back of the horse and cart and so on. Then it turns into a demonstration sport.
And quite a few kilograms in that effort too.
Absolutely.
Now, you cannot come to the Royal Show without being stopped in your tracks by this, can you?
I don't know whether you do it or not, but every show I come to, I've got to go and just have a little look at the wood chopping. It's just a beautiful...
I've been 3 times, I think, this week.
So fun. You've got plenty of time.
You can't walk past.
It's a bit... And again, it's interesting, isn't it? 100 years ago, 1925, there would have been people tree felling in the Mount Lofty Ranges, in our forests. They were the part of the industry. Now, of course, they've got huge machines, so it's now a high-class sport.
Absolutely. And fun fact, the location there, that depression where it is, it's right over the top of the old Keswick Creek.
Just behind the... If you haven't been there yet, it's just behind the main grandstand.
Now, this happened in 1989. Get a load of this.
When the bidding began today, the owners of these artificially bred wonders were confident. About 6.5 minutes later, Goliath was worth more than Jason's golden fleece.
Hold on. Thank you very much. 360,000. New world record.
So that's a world record?
That record, however, stood only a few minutes.
There's another one coming.
450,000. You're done. Once, twice, third and final call. You're done, sir. Finished. Hold on. Thank you very much. Another world record to Mr. Richard Nitsky.
New owner Richard Nitsky believes Luster is worth it, but a short holiday comes first before the serious business of breeding.
We intend to put him out to a natural mating, and then early 1990 put him back in the AI centre and obviously produce the semen we need.
And can you believe that? $450,000 in 1989. That was big money.
That is well over $1 million today.
Oh, and some, I would think.
But there's a little background to it.
There's a bit of a story behind the story which we haven't got time to, but I think there was a bit of, well, actually, I was about to say horse trading, ewe trading that went on in the background here that contributed towards a bit of a deal that was done, I think, before the auction actually happened.
And an indication of just how huge wool was, the wool boom.
So big. So big. Sadly, not quite so these days, but in 1989, the country was riding on the sheep's back. So let's keep moving on. You cannot... does anyone know what this is? Mr. McCarthy.
It's a big sign on it to help you, because we're talking about the hall that was here, right here, until, well, 2007.
Centennial Hall.
The Centennial Hall, and it was built for our centenary. That makes sense, doesn't it? 1936, 100 years since the first European settlers lobbed down the Padawalunga and wait for the city to develop.
And this was a grand building in its day.
It's huge, isn't it? When you look at that spread before the gates and everything went in front of it, it was a massive Art Deco masterpiece built of concrete, and sadly that's why it's no longer with us. It got the concrete disease, and so was deemed to be unsafe. A bit of it might have fallen on us if we're still here today.
I have such fond memories of it though, because this is a photo from a long way back, but the horticultural displays in Centennial Hall, I think, were absolutely staggering during the Royal Show. And just a very quick story on this, Keith, because one of my personal thrills as a reporter here over the years, particularly when Walter Duncan was the chair of the horticultural section of the show, was to wander around Centennial Hall looking at all the brilliant horticultural displays with Walter, who was rose grower extraordinaire in his own right.
Yeah, a wonderful contributor to the show. And by the way, if you want to see today's horticulturals, just behind the screen there, some lovely stuff. These days tends to be put in by landscapers, but they've done some beautiful.
And Sophie Thompson's display over there is really something to look at. So have a look at that. Have a look at that. But it's not just... Does anyone remember this bloke?
Yeah, well done. Have you got one of his silhouettes? Because if you have, the Royal Show people, especially in the museum, Erin would love to talk to you, so see us afterwards if you have. But his name, of course, was John Ross. We just knew him as the Silhouette Man. And he was here for a very long time, about half the life of the Centennial Hall. American, in the war, came out, migrated, learned his trade over there, came to every show right through till his death in 2008.
And of course we can't leave Centennial Hall without that white knuckle fever, because...
I feel crook every time I see this
Who
picture.
sat an exam in Centennial Hall?
Yeah.
Yep, quite a few of us.
I used to think of those front gates as the gates of doom. I was never sure if I was going to come out again. But it was renowned for its temperature control.
It could be as hot as Hades at certain times of the year. I mean, November, you can sometimes, when November exams are on, you can get very hot temperatures. But the converse is true. And I remember sitting in a university English exam in here on a very cold November day. And at the end of 3 hours, Keith, I could hardly write. I was so cold.
And I heard a lovely story the other day of a guy on a hot day who said, I ruined my exam because I sweated all over it. It was extreme, wasn't it? And luckily most of us actually survived coming to the public exams.
Now, music is such a theme here at Wayville as well over the years in so many different guises, but man, this was one of those really notable times here at the show.
This is, of course,
The Beatles!
Oh yeah, tell you something, I think you understand. When I say that something, I wanna hold your hand. I wanna hold your hand. Oh please, say to me.
oh wow.
And that was the start of Beatlemania.
It was amazing.
Literally.
And how did that happen? Because, well, it was because they just put out their first album, and so the world is catching on to this new phenomenon, the Beatles. The tour is organised for Australia, but we're not in it. And so after a bit of argy-bargy, they'd stick one at the front end of the tour. So we're the very first place in Australia to see them, and we go crazy.
350,000 South Australians came out to see the Beatles, lining the streets all the way from Adelaide Airport to that town hall for the biggest reception the Beatles ever had, and that was when it really took off.
It was named.
And this was the hottest ticket in town on the day. This is what it actually looked like.
There were only 8,000 of these sold, and people lined up for days outside Johnny's to get one. It's representative, though, isn't it, of all the other music that's been here.
Oh, so much.
Huge.
Like this.
Oh,
The Big Day Out.
He's jumped way past the Rolling Stones. He's gone 3 decades ahead too. Big Day
Yes. And this has been the venue for so much music over the years, so many concerts, but Big Day Out for a long time was one of the very popular events here.
93 for nearly 2 decades. It is massive, isn't it? So you've got people like the Smashing Pumpkins. This was headbanger territory, headbanger heaven, but the biggest of the lot.
The biggest of the lot.
Oh,
yes.
there it is.
These guys.
Metallica came to town, and 40,000 people came to the Wayville Showground, but some of them got in for free.
Yes, and we go back to the Keswick Creek because I think it probably relates more to the Big Day Out, Keith,
It
which
is.
was during the daytime, and there were some people without tickets who were very industrious about using the Keswick Creek and coming in underground and finding their way up into the showgrounds to get to the Big Day Out without paying for a ticket.
There is a grate just behind the members stand.
I think it's welded shut now.
I don't think you can get it anymore.
Good luck if you can. But music. So what about sports? Sport has been huge here.
Yes, it's the Wayville Showground has been the centre of all sorts of sports over 100 years. And the trots, they began here in 1925 and they lasted for more than 70 years, or about 70 years, because these horses went round by day, then they went round by night. It became a massive part of South Australia's sporting culture. They held 6 interdominions here. That's the big race for all the best of the Australian horses, the pacers and the trotters, and the New Zealanders. The biggest crowd, 47,000 people came to one of those. I don't know where they all fitted in, but yeah, the trots were very important.
And it was the only sporting event that actually kept going here during World War II, wasn't it?
It was indeed. Everything stopped, but we suspect for morale purposes you couldn't stop the trots. And on that same inside the track now.
We're moving on to the arena itself. This was the home of West Adelaide for a while. So football actually had a strong presence here at Wayville for quite some years, Keith.
Yeah, more than a decade. They got here a couple of years after the start, and they may have lasted longer, but World War II got in the way. And they won a premiership while they were here, playing their footy against all the other league clubs on the oval.
And so many other things here. Speedway, motorbikes.
I love Speedway Royale. That they called it the fastest dirt bike track, that'll get it, in the world. And it was very quick. And there's a young Kim Benithan persuaded his mum, Lady Benithan, to come and have a look. And that's where we reckon Roley Park was born as an idea for the kid. And of course, legendary part of our history.
And this has also been an important site in South Australia in times of trouble, hasn't it, Keith?
Yeah, this is a dark picture, isn't it, for a very dark time. That's probably in the Centennial Hall. Certainly the people inside are military. And so this is when the army takes over the showgrounds for all of the Second World War.
And there's no royal show during that period?
Not at all, no. And in fact, it takes till 46. There's none then because they're still getting out of the joint. So you've got soldiers living here, as many as 3,000 or 4,000 at a time. We raise battalions to send overseas to the war here. There are trucks in where the dairy should be and so on. So it was a very hard time for the show, and a very hard time, of course, for not just South Australians, but for people internationally.
And then in the 70s, this happened at the other end of the country, right up in the top end.
It's just
Cyclone Tracy.
amazing to see the devastation again, isn't it? As we've just celebrated, or commemorated, it's a better word, for the 1974 Christmas Day Cyclone Tracy. It absolutely demolished the town. 7 out of 10 buildings gone. It just meant the town couldn't operate. So they had to shift 36.
A major evacuation.
36,000
flowing out
people.
of Darwin. Many people brought here to Wayville as their first stop post-Cyclone Tracy.
And what do you do then? Because, well, the Centennial came into it, and there's the Red Cross in one of the sheds. around the showground, just getting people started again. Okay, we'll look after you, and putting them in touch with people. Maybe their brother or sister or mum or dad might have ended up in Brisbane. It was a very hard time, and good on the Red Cross.
And this, of course, happened fairly recently as well, and we lost 2 royal shows because of it, didn't we?
COVID-19. But there was eventually a positive side to it, because the COVID vaccination centre here at the show gave people protection. Thousands and thousands of doses were jammed here.
But there have been some very big names, and when we talked about the Beatles earlier, but there have been some very big names over the years here, Kieth, as well.
Very important
How
persons.
about this one, QE2, and you, my friend, were there.
What's
Queen Elizabeth.
Queen Elizabeth II. She's been on the throne for 1 year. She's a young woman, and she came and we all went mad. And 60,000 of us, kids from primary schools around the state and around the suburbs, all lobbed at Wayville. I talked to a fella here earlier, and he said, I remember being put in a sheep pen, and then we went out on the ground, and we came out and put us on a sheep pen before we went back to school. That's all he could remember. I can't remember much more than the fact that there were a hell of a lot of us. Some of you might have pictures of Grandma as a little wattle girl. They did dances, and we spelled out loyalty, and of course we sang God Save the Queen.
And there was also a bit of a crusade.
Billy Graham. Anybody been to the Billy Graham crusade in the late 60s? That was 1969. He was an American hot gospeler, and he would
An
attract-
evangelist.
Absolutely. Huge crowds around the world, including another 60,000 people turning up here. And he would bring people forward and commit again to Christianity. They reckon he had a really measurable effect. The church attendance went up the next year, and beer consumption went down.
Now, we can't finish this presentation this afternoon about talking about some of our favourites here at the Royal Show as well, Kieth.
Isn't this magnificent? This is the ladies and a couple of gents up the back with their cats, way back before we got to Wayville. But some of you would, I'm sure, time your run to see the right dogs on the right day. The best dog are, in fact, in the Dogs Pavilion today. And all sorts of favourites we've got, but we're just going to go through a couple of them for you.
And what about this? The
Oh,
sample bags.
The
They
Hall of
were
Indi-
sample bags, weren't they?
Yeah, they were.
originally?
There's the Hall of Industries behind. We saw a bit of before. There's the Amscol kiosk in the middle, and there's a family. They've got there what probably were sample bags during the early days of the 50s. They would be giving you just little samples of made little biscuits, little bits of confectionery and so on, a bit of cheese, and now they've turned into a huge idea at the show, the show bags.
And how about these little blokes
They're loving
with
it.
their show bags?
They are loving it.
Absolutely loving it.
And then,
As is this young lady. She's got an armful.
which raises the question, what's the show bag limit? Who knows? And they rate from $10 right up to over $200 a bag.
And these little fellas were pretty tacked.
Yeah, we can't work out whether we had too many show bags and got tired.
It
or
was
whether
just
we
hard work.
Maybe eaten
A
too
big day out of the show.
Could have eaten too much out of the show bags.
Absolutely.
Show time.
You cannot talk about the Royal Show, Kieth, without talking about Sideshow Alley.
Always a part of the show, and this is from the 60s, this picture, and you'll see in the corner a real sign of before the big machines arrived. This is, who is in the corner up there?
Oh, it's the Sheik from Scrubby Creek.
Oh, exactly, the man with the teeth.
Chad Morgan.
Oh, look, he was one of the great country singers, of course. Speaking of singers, Johnny O'Keefe had a tent show that came here in the 60s. A lot of other people. Jim Sharman's boxing troupe. They had to stop that because you weren't allowed to kick boxing all day, every day.
And then, of course, there were the rides. This was one of my personal favourites. Did anyone ever go on the chairlift here? Yeah, lots of hands going up for the chairlift.
Only lasted a
I
few
thought
years.
the chairlift was fantastic because it started down at Leigh Street and you got this wonderful view as you came over the showgrounds.
And I liked it because it was nice and
You
gentle.
could pick
and
out
easy.
where you were going to go next. You got a sense of the geography of the place.
It was
Very cool.
the most genteel of the show rides, which we will get to. But
Not like this one.
Goodness.
Who's been on this ride? Oh, everybody.
Right,
Just about everybody.
How did you go? As bad as I did?
Terrifying.
I thought we were going to just take off instead of going round those sharp bends. I thought I was going to end up in the arena.
Those 90-degree turns.
That was a part of the show for most of us for nearly half a century. 63 it was built, and didn't go away until the early 2000s.
No, but such an institution here at the Royal Show for so many years, and there's kind of a modern incarnation of it down in near the dock.
I had a look and it looked a little bit easier, but I
Yeah,
thought,
I don't think it's quite as terrifying as the old
no.
now.
But there is a new one I think you went on. There's one.
Oh yeah,
The
Sky Flyer. Has anyone been on the Sky Flyer here this year?
Well done.
Oh,
Shoot,
only one brave soul. I think.
20 stories high it goes up. Oh my goodness.
You're way up above the Ferris wheel when
So
you go
don't
on there.
eat the fairy
Best
floss
view at the
before
show.
you go on. And we are moving now to our favourite foods. And we're going to run what we regard as the first time ever in 100 years, a demi-semi-quasi official survey of what is your favourite food at the Royal Adelaide
And these
Show.
are our finalists. We've
Righto.
trawled through the choices,
We
and
had the
these are the
milkshakes.
finalists.
Yeah, we had milkshakes. We had the scones from the CWA, the swizzle on the stick thing. But these are it.
Okay, so straw poll. Hands up for fairy floss if that's your favourite.
Oh, you're
Okay,
not
there's a
following.
few.
What about the donut up in the corner, which Billy's have done a special 100th anniversary? The donuts.
The hot donuts. What about the hot donuts? Yeah.
Righto, one to go.
I love the hot donuts. And of course, you can't leave Dagwood dogs out of the equation.
The Dagwood dog. I reckon the donuts
Oh,
have
I
done
think
it
the
again.
donuts have got it.
The
I
donuts-
think the donuts have got it.
Beauty for the donuts. That only leaves us to say some thank yous. It's marvellous to have you here. Thanks for making the show at the show. We'd love to thank the people at the Show Museum. A lot of the pictures
Aaron
came
Reardon,
from there.
who has been absolutely wonderful to us.
And the State Library.
And
the
Will
show.
Rayner, the CEO. It was his brilliant idea.
He tapped us on the shoulder. We've loved doing it for you. We've got one more job though, and you're involved. Of course, tomorrow is the anniversary, the 100th anniversary, so we've got to sing happy birthday to the Wayville Showground. Are you ready, folks? Here we go. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, Wayville Showgrounds. Happy birthday to you. Hip hip! Hooray! Hip hip! Hip hip! Hooray! Thank you, folks. Have a good day at the show.
Thank you very much, and do enjoy the 100th year here at Wayville. Have fun. See you later.